Croatia is the 127th largest country in the world. Of course, there are only 195 countries, and that's counting the state of Palestine and the Holy See, the jurisdiction of the Bishop of Rome. So it's not a huge country, 21,851 cells. This is about the size of West Virginia, maybe just a bit smaller. But the narrow coastline is more than 300 miles long. If you had the time, you could travel by bus. But renting a car is the most time-effective way of seeing as much as possible. The national parks and pure water, both fresh and salt, the scenic vistas and stunning sunrises and sunsets, the harbors and historic cities are all something that you'll want to see. For us, 2 weeks was not nearly long enough. Croatia is a country with 1,185 islands. Only 66 are inhabited, but they're all served by public ferries. Most can accommodate vehicles. It is possible to island hop with your rental car. From Rijeka, in the far north of the country, to Dubrovnik, in the far south, it's 612 kilometers by road, 380 miles. With only 14 days to explore the country, we found that a rental car was our only viable option to visit what we considered the top must-see sites of Croatia. Croatia has wonderful drives along the scenic Dalmatian coast. But the quickest way to travel the north-south route is on the toll roads. The toll roads are modern, wide routes with speed limits up to 130 kilometers per hour. In Croatia, the locals drive fast. At first I wondered if 130 kilometers per hour was a minimum speed, as it seemed most of the traffic sped by us in the fast lane. Four general speed limits apply on Croatian roads. 50 kilometers per hour, or 31 miles per hour, within inhabited places, or up to 80 kilometers per hour and 50 miles per hour were explicitly permitted. 90 kilometers per hour outside of inhabited places, that's about 56 miles per hour, or 110 kilometers per hour on expressways, which is 68 miles per hour. On the freeways, 130 kilometers per hour is the speed limit, 81 miles per hour. The limits apply only if there are no other signs present, as other signs may prescribe a lower or a higher speed limit or enforce a traffic rule that affects speed. Depending on the severity of the violation, driving faster than the speed limit is punishable by a fine somewhere between 40 euros and 2,600 euros. Exceeding the speed limit by more than 50 kilometers per hour in a populated area may also be punished by imprisonment of up to 60 days. Tolls in Croatia are collected for the passage of motorway roads, and they can be paid directly at toll gates or through an onboard unit. The cost for a 250-kilometer journey on a Croatian toll road is about 16 euros. You must have with you in the vehicle your driver's license, a copy of your insurance policy, and your passport. The least expensive car we could find to rent was a small two-door hatchback. Looked like it had a 3-cylinder engine. We opted for a small 4-door hatchback for about $1 a day more. We wanted a smaller vehicle because from the pictures we saw, it looked like the streets in the cities were narrow. Cars were parked with their one set of wheels up on the sidewalk. They were so narrow. We found that this was true. When we got there in Rijeka, the car rental agency said, well, we upgraded you to a Renault Captur, which is kind of a crossover SUV. It's a fairly long car. We said, no, we want a smaller car. Well, they didn't have any smaller cars, so we took it reluctantly. But it was very difficult to park. Even at the supermarket, my wife got out and directed me in and out of the parking spot. So I would recommend getting a small car. Another thing we found in the rental cars was there was all standard transmissions. There was no automatic transmissions available, which didn't bother me, but my wife didn't like that. The car was very comfortable on the freeway though, and we had plenty of room to store groceries or luggage. It was a pain to park though. Being a larger car, sometimes we just couldn't find a slot big enough to park it. At the filling stations, you pump your fuel, then you go inside, tell them what pump you were at, and pay for the fuel. The filling stations on the toll road were well designed, easy in and out. They resembled more of a mini-mart, quickie mart type place with snacks and coffee and sodas and lavatories that you had to pay. I recommend having a few 50-cent euro coins. In Croatia, there is no such thing as a right turn on the red light. Also in Croatia, there is no crossing 2 lanes of traffic to turn left. In the city, the streets were laid out before there were automobiles. So sometimes it's pretty serpentine with all of a sudden a one-way street. In Croatia, the parts of the city that were rebuilt after the war, it seems like they had some pretty sharp traffic engineers design things, so it's pretty modern there. But driving in the older parts of the town can be confusing. A GPS is a must. In the countryside, the roads are winding and narrow. But all in all, driving in Croatia is not all that different from driving in the States, and you should have no problem. We saw few policemen on the toll roads, but quite a few in town. As to whether or not on the toll roads they have speed traps and traffic cameras, I don't know. It did seem like most of the people were exceeding the speed limit by at least 10 kilometers per hour or more. On the narrow 2-lane blacktop country roads, people didn't seem to be afraid to pass on a curve sometimes, which kind of shocked me. I don't want to imply that people were reckless, but it seemed like they drove with a little bit more self-assurance than I'm able to. In other words, Croatians drive a lot like Italians, which makes sense since Italy is not very far away. We really enjoyed our trip to Croatia, and I would not hesitate to drive a car, just take normal safety precautions, and the toll roads are a lot safer, I think, than the country roads.